Yesterday was our baby daddy's birthday, Thomas. It was his birthday.
Do you know if they were drinking or anything?
I just know they were smoking.
Smoking weed?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I smoked with him
Okay.
yesterday, and while he opened up his gifts, and they were sitting there on the couch.
On March the 30th, 2023, police responded to a tragic homicide involving a young mother, Pashun Jeffery. This was in St. Petersburg, Florida. In their home, the child, Taylen Mosley, also disappeared. The investigation began when Pashun's family grew concerned after being unable to reach her. The apartment complex manager was asked to conduct a welfare check and upon entry discovered Pashun's body deceased in the bathroom. The St. Petersburg Fire and Rescue arrived and pronounced her dead at 2:44 p.m. She had over 100 wounds on her body. Wow. Blood trails were located north of the stairwell leading to the apartment. The doorframe had blood along the bottom left corner. There were bloody footprints located directly in the front of the apartment door. So, police then went and spoke to several witnesses. One stated, after knocking on the door and not getting an answer, he used the spare office key to open the door. The maintenance man, Armando Disquez, when he opened the door, he could see that there was blood all over the place. He tried not to step on the blood because there was so much of it and lots of shoe prints in the blood. He called out someone's name, but he did not hear anyone. He checked the bedroom because he knew Pashun had a child. He pushed open the bathroom door and saw a female. He could tell she was dead because he'd been doing this job for many years at different locations, and he had found over 40 dead people in their apartments, but none like this crime scene. He said that most bodies he had found were older people and looked like they had died of old age. Once he saw the female, he walked out and called the police. He noticed the victim's pants were pulled down to her ankles and her top was pulled up above her chest, exposing her breast. He also said that a tenant from the first floor heard fighting and yelling and a baby crying.
Oh no.
Yo, cuando entré, vi la sangre y los footprints. So I walked around them and I took my finger, and when I pushed the bathroom window of the bathroom door open, that's when I saw her on the ground.
Did you hear a child? Did you
No,
hear
I tried to look for the kid. I tried to do a quick look through the bedroom and behind the sofas.
So you didn't get to do anything, right? Okay.
The girl from downstairs said,
Was the front door open or did you open it?
no, I opened it.
You had to open it with a key?
I put the key in and turned it. Now, if it was open, I don't know because I was so... But I didn't realize that I put my hand on the doorknob, and the doorknob is full of blood.
10-12-hour complaint. 10-12-15-02.
Okay. Yeah, we still...
So once police arrived, they inquired at the local hospitals. They checked to see if a Thomas Mosley was admitted for wounds. This was Thomas's apartment. Pashun was Thomas's girlfriend. Taylen was Thomas's son. They checked with registration and confirmed that he was indeed at a hospital. At the time, he was undergoing surgery. Police were informed the nurse overheard statements of concern between Thomas and a woman she thought to be his mother. She overheard the mother saying to Mosley that they need to find someone. Of course, she was referring to the child because the child is missing. At this point, nobody knows where the child is. The child's mother, Pashun, is dead in the apartment and his father is in hospital. Police then spoke directly with Thomas's mother, Renee Mosley. She advised she had not seen her grandchild in over a week. If her grandchild, Taylen, was not with the mother, he might be in daycare. So police then went to the daycare. This is where they met Desiree Rents. Rents stated she operates a daycare from her apartment and has up to 5 children daily. The last time she saw Pashun and Taylen was on the 24th of March. Rents advised the child was dropped off at 7:30 a.m. and collected by his mother and her cousin. On the days they did not show, she would contact the mother, Pashun, questioning why the child was never dropped off for daycare. Pashun replied with text messages stating the child was not feeling well and would be seeing a doctor. Rents had not heard anything from the mother or the child since. Police then spoke with Denson. She is Pashun's mother. She advised that she had not heard from her daughter since last night. The family was at the apartment the day before celebrating Thomas's birthday. Pashun was supposed to bring Taylen to her residence that morning for her and her other daughter to babysit while she went to work. Pashun did not bring Taylen over, which alarmed her and she could not get in contact with her. She then went to Thomas's parents and the family did not see her or the baby. When asked if they spoke to Thomas, his parents informed her that he went to the hospital for a large cut on his arm. Denson did tell police Pashun and Thomas had been together on and off since high school.
I just heard Passion and the baby yesterday at 5 and below that she was trying to buy Thomas something for his birthday. Yesterday was our baby daddy's birthday, Thomas. It was his birthday.
Do you know if they were drinking or anything?
I just know they were smoking.
Smoking weed?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I smoked with him yesterday, and while he opened up his gifts, and they was sitting there on the couch.
Yeah.
And then we was eating ice cream and stuff. Then I said, okay, I'm finna go because Trenton had to run track. He got to call your dad back because he worried. I've been had him on alert looking for them.
I can't even drive.
Now, when police spoke with the doctors at the hospital again, nursing staff escorted them to the second floor operating room. This is where they met with the manager of the hospital, Dr. Fink. He told them Thomas is under a Baker Act. He was having bilateral hand surgery. Thomas, at that time, was intubated and fully sedated. Now, police then went back to the station. They spoke to a man called Mr. Golden. He told police that he was walking down a lake and he may have started seeing things, but he just saw an alligator carrying a baby in his mouth in the lake. What? Officers were able to respond quickly and found the alligator, which was carrying a body of a small child. The alligator was euthanized and the body was retrieved. The body was identified as that of Taylen Mosley. The boy's limbs were missing. There appeared to be multiple superficial wounds caused by the teeth of the animal. And when police looked at more evidence, they knew Thomas was at that lake the day before. And because of this, they charged him with the murder of Pashun and Taylen. Now, I've seen the crime images of the boy's body. It is sickening. His limbs are missing. He's got chunks of his forehead missing as well. I don't know what Thomas did to him, but these are the worst crime images I have ever seen. Now you might think, what caused this silly sausage to do something so heinous? Well, I managed to get some of his psych evaluations. Let me go through them, because of course, there must be an explanation on why someone would be this sick. So, the doctors examining Thomas said as a child, he was identified as having some difficulties with reading and letters and spelling. His processing speed was just consistently slow. He actually appeared more depressed and was taking his medication, but still was having difficulty as he was getting older. Specifically, the depression, slow motor functioning, slow verbal responses, being distractible. When he spoke to the doctors after this crime, he told them that he was hearing voices and he was seeing blood. Voices were telling him to cause harm. Now, the state used a psychologist called Dr. Jones. She testified that she met with Thomas the day after he was admitted. She recognized he had unspecified mood disorder and cannabis use disorder. Thomas was on psychotropic medications for mood and psychosis, as well as medication for anxiety and depression, and that he remained compliant on the same medications during his stay. They also gave him trazodone for sleep after he reported difficulty going to bed. Dr. Jones stated that Thomas's self-reported hallucinations were atypical because they were fairly continuous and severe. She reported he had poor cooperation and made no attempt to respond to even basic questions like, "What does a judge do? Do you know who your attorneys are?" When Dr. Jones asked him about the charges against him, he could not recall. Then recalled one of the charges and told her he would have to call his public defender to see what the charges are. He told her he had been on probation but did not know the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony. Now, based on the atypical hallucinations and poor cooperation, Dr. Jones suspected malingering, as in he was faking his symptoms. So she administered a true and false statement document which tests if a patient is lying and faking their symptoms. She stated Thomas scored a 39. And this score indicated he was feigning, exaggerating, or guessing his symptoms. After evaluating him further, Dr. Jones diagnosed him with unspecified mood disorder and malingering. She stated his depressed mood, reported history of agitation and atypical hallucinations, poor cooperation and effort, inconsistencies between claimed distress or symptoms, deceitfulness, and given the inconsistencies in everything he was saying, Dr. Jones found Thomas competent to stand trial. Which is kind of weird because only a madman would do what he did. So, the defense presented Dr. Ryan Hall. He was a psychiatrist. He met with Thomas and diagnosed him with psychosis. He stated that Thomas was very depressed. He had trouble making eye contact. His responses were minimal and slow. He had issues with sleep, but his appetite was good. He noted that Thomas was difficult to understand with a flat effect, and that flat effect is a symptom of schizophrenia, depression, and some medications. But in this case, it was more likely due to his mental health. He diagnosed Thomas with a major depressive disorder based on sleep changes, his lack of interest, motivation, apathy, and self-esteem. The doctor was concerned but found his capacity to appreciate the charges acceptable. He felt Thomas's ability to understand the range of possible penalties was low. To Dr. Hall, Thomas did not understand the mitigating and aggravating factors and seemed to think death penalty was only optional. Thomas saw death as a good thing, and he was confused about death row, believing that death row was a separate location than prison. Dr. Hall felt that Thomas's capacity to understand the entire process was unacceptable because he did not understand the concept of different attorneys paid by the government. The doctor felt there still might have been some delusional element, that a delusion is a false, fixed, idiosyncratic idea, but there's also magical thinking. The doctor said Thomas's significant depression interfered with his capacity to speak to his attorneys. Whenever he asked Thomas a question, Thomas didn't always answer. And Dr. Hall explained that you need to have 5 symptoms or more for depression. This would include sleepless issues, loss of interest, self-esteem issues, or pathological guilt. There's also decreased energy, concentration problems, issues with appetite, and weight changes. Therefore, he disagreed with Dr. Jones's diagnosis of malingering. So, after conducting competency hearings and considering all relevant testimony and evidence, the court found Thomas not competent to stand trial. This was the conclusion in June 2024. The case is still ongoing. Now, what prompted me to make this story was you got this beautiful boy Taylen, right? And how many people know his story? How many people know what happened to him? I don't know what justice is in this case. This is where the experts can take over. I don't know anything about competency hearings and psychological evaluations, etc., etc. If he is cuckoo, then deal with it accordingly. Taylen is the story. Tell me what you think.
219 5283. 5283. And you related to what address? What address you talking about?
The woman
Any panic alarm?
And what apartment?
I don't know. We came out to do a weather check.
You called it in?
Did
You just
address first while we came out here?
How did you get the address?
I didn't have the address. I know she stayed here. For her car. That's her car right there.
Yes, a car. Which car is that? That blue car right there is her car? And who is that? Oh, the owner of that car is who?
Pashun, Jeffery.
Okay, who is she to you?
That's my nephew's mom.
Your nephew's mom? Okay. And who is she?
My grandfather.
Yeah. You're the grandfather?
Of the baby, yeah.
Okay. 60 Charlie. I'm 1012 with the grandfather of the baby. And where's the baby at now? You know?
Is he up there?
I don't know.
Okay,
they're in there now, so they'll let us know.
That alarm, I'll head over there. Not too far off. There's one more 51.
Are they okay?
I don't know, so I can't tell you anything that I don't know. I got here just before you. I was just putting up those signs. Does she have the baby with her or no?
No,
she doesn't.
They came to our house looking for these two.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know what was going on,
Okay.
so I was worried.
Car she's in, trying to stop her.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Chevy Impala.
Do we know her name?
I don't know anything, sir.
Alright.
I walked in, came out, and saw Luther.
Okay.
So, look like it has more room.
Hey, does anybody know her name? Do they know her name at all?
Sure.
6-1 Charlie, copy a tag.
He's getting all the information right now.
It's on the way.
Quebec, Delta.
On November 25th, 2012 at 5 p.m., Cleveland police received a call from Camelia Terry. She stated that her 3-year-old son, Emiliano, was missing. Cleveland police officer Robert Mangan and his partner, Kevin Walker, immediately responded to the scene. They arrived within minutes. Upon arrival, Robert observed Camelia standing in the park with 2 small children, later identified as her 2 other sons. The officers asked Camelia for any additional details that might assist them in their search for Emiliano. Camelia told the detectives that after approximately 15 minutes of playing, she noticed Emiliano was missing. The detectives then walked the route Camilla used as she walked to the park that afternoon, before returning back to Camilla's apartment. Cleveland Police Commander Dion McCauley and his deputy Calvin Williams instructed the detectives to take Camilla and her children back to the 4th District for additional interviews. The FBI actually got involved. You had Special Agent Joseph Callahan. He testified that the FBI became involved in November 2012. He testified that he had a conversation with Camilla while he was at her apartment building. FBI Special Agent Andrew Burke testified that he received Camilla's consent to search her cell phone. Agent Burke generated a report documenting the phone's contents. Now, the report contained text messages, call logs, and other relevant data. You see, Camilla told the agent that on November 25, 2012, she and her children woke up at 11 a.m. but stayed home until around 4 p.m. Now, the data that was extracted from the phone, however, placed her near Tower City, which is downtown Cleveland, around 2 p.m. So if you're telling the police that you were home till 4 p.m. but your phone suggests you were out and about at 2 p.m, someone is telling porkies, aren't they, love? And after being confronted with this information, Camilla then stated that she had lunch with her children at the McDonald's in Tower City. She further stated they rode a bus downtown at 1 p.m. Now, the next day, on November 26th, that same agent, Agent Burke, he received a still photo from a local business external surveillance video. This video shows Camilla was pushing a stroller past that building. She was also accompanied by her sons, but the video did not show that Emiliano was with them. So what happened to him? Another agent, Agent Fragmelli, he testified about his interview with Camilla. He said that he asked her for more information regarding Emiliano's disappearance. Camilla stated that she and her 3 children walked to the park at 4 p.m. She stated that she placed her youngest child in a stroller for the walk to the park. She pushed the stroller while the other kids and Emiliano walked alongside her. Then at some point while they were at the park, Camilla said that she lost sight of Emiliano and poof, he was gone. Because of course, that happens every day. She spent approximately 15 to 20 minutes searching the whole park for Emiliano before she called 911. Agent Fragomelli then showed Camilla the surveillance photo depicting only the other children walking to the park with her. Because of course, surveillance footage showed that Emiliano did not go to the park. Camilla responded that Emiliano was hidden behind the stroller because of the camera's angle. And Fragomelli, having reviewed the entire video, he did not see Emiliano anywhere in the vicinity of the stroller. When he told Camilla this, she just stayed quiet. Now, the FBI agents also spoke with the witness. That witness observed Camilla on the day of Emiliano's disappearance. That witness said that they had only seen Camilla and the other kids walking to the park, and Emiliano was not there. Camilla replied that the witness must have something against her. The FBI also showed her a computer printout of an internet posting dated on November 21st. This internet posting said, "I have a 3-year-old toddler I want to put up for adoption." Camilla admitted that she is the one that created this posting because she had trouble raising Emiliano and she was considering giving him up for adoption. The posting states that Camilla had hesitations about giving birth to Emiliano. She had difficulty dealing with Emiliano's problems, and Emiliano's father was not present to assist in raising the child. The agent then asked her if she could take them to Emiliano's whereabouts. Camilla responded that she did not appreciate the agent's implication that she knows where he is and said, "Let me get out of this room." While that interview was going on, police were at the park searching for Emiliano and at Camilla's house looking for clues. Now, in her apartment building, you had the waste management facility who, take out the trash and all that stuff. You also had the FBI Special Agent Christopher Garnett. And do you know what he saw? Well, within minutes of searching through the trash, Garnett picked up a bag and it felt quite heavy. He began removing some of the external bags until he reached a blue nylon bag. Agent Garnett rolled the contents out of the outer bags and began closely inspecting the object. He testified that he felt something that was a skull. He then felt kneecaps, leg bones, and feet. Agent Garnett smelled the stench of decomposition once he cut open the bags. He further testified that Emiliano's body was wrapped in approximately 7 different plastic bags, including bags from the children's place and from Target. Once the agents determined that they had found a body, they contacted the Cleveland police and the medical examiner's office. The FBI agents at the waste management facility relayed this information and their discovery of Emiliano's body to the other law enforcement officers who at the time were interviewing Camilla. Agent Fragamelli, who was interviewing her, informed her, "We found his body." He told her that his body had been recovered from a garbage truck that collected trash from her apartment building. Fragamelli said this is when Camilla began to cry and stated she did not intentionally take her son's life. She stated that her other kids and Emiliano went to sleep. They all slept on the same bed the night before, November 23rd. She then woke up on the morning of November 24th and Emiliano was dead. She did not know how it happened, but Emiliano just stopped breathing. She walked around the apartment for a number of hours, became scared that others would blame her for Emiliano's death, and decided to dispose of Emiliano's body. Camilla told Fragamelli that she wrapped his body in trash bags. She also used the children's place shopping bag and placed it in the dumpster by her apartment building. When asked if there were any injuries on Emiliano that she could explain, she said that Emiliano had sustained a head injury the day before when the other kids pushed him from behind, causing Emiliano to strike his head on a car seat. She stated that Emiliano's head began bleeding and she cleaned up the wound. Camilla then wiped the blood off the car seat. But of course, it seems Camilla is telling a whole bunch of porkies. So the best way to identify what happened is the forensic pathologist. This was Andrea Wiens. She performed the autopsy. She testified that Emiliano was small for his age. His height and weight measurements were below the 5th percentile for his age. Her examination revealed that he had multiple skull fractures, subgleal hematomas, and lacerations and contusions to his head. He had intramuscular bruising on the back of his shoulder blades and on the back of his right arm, and a laceration to his liver. Dr. Wiens testified that the laceration to his liver almost tore the liver in half and was caused by severe force to his abdomen. He also had fractures in his left and right ribs, some of which had been sustained at the time prior to Emiliano's death. She predicted that the old rib fractures occurred sometime during the months preceding Emiliano's death. The remaining described injuries were all inflicted while Emiliano was alive and near the time of his death. She went on to say that based on the degree of decomposition, Emiliano had been dead for approximately 5 to 7 days prior to the time his body was discovered. She testified that the cause of Emiliano's death was blunt impacts to the head, torso, and extremities, with skeletal soft tissue and visceral injuries. The manner of his death was ruled a homicide. You also had Curtis Jones. He was the supervisor of the county medical examiner's office. He testified about the evidence obtained in Camilla's apartment. He said that in several locations of her apartment there was blood everywhere, on the radiator, in the living room, on the wall, in the front bedroom, and in the sink. They also found a pair of boots which also had blood on it. He categorized the blood stains on the radiator as blood spatter. He did not find any indication of blood on the car seat in Camilla's car, and that's important because she claimed that his head impacted the car seat. You also had Lisa Moore, a forensic scientist employed with the county medical office. She testified that the samples taken from the knot area of the outer bags used to dispose Emiliano's body matched Camilla's DNA. She testified that the blood samples collected from the knot area of the bindings around Emiliano's waist and Camilla's boots and the baseboard in the bedroom all matched Emiliano's DNA. Furthermore, police detective Joselito Sandoval testified that he went to the waste management facility with the FBI. He observed trash bags that were opened, partially exposing the right side of Emiliano's face. He viewed 3 pieces of mail surrounding the body. 2 of which were addressed to Camelia and 1 letter in Emiliano's name. He was the one that conducted the search of her apartment, and during the search he found a letter. This letter was from the First Call for Help Community Resources Adoption Network in Cleveland. He also found a Tower City McDonald's receipt. He found a HP laptop, 2 USB drives, and 3 cell phones belonging to Camelia. He testified that Camelia had conducted internet searches, and these searches were on child adoption services around the time of Emiliano's death, so it's pretty clear she was just trying to get rid of him. Sandoval went on to say that her attorney, Camelia's attorney, contacted him and made arrangements for Camelia to give him a statement in the presence of her attorney. So in October, he interviewed her. During the interview, Camelia implicated that there was a man by the name of Red. He's the one that caused Emiliano's death. She claimed that sometime before Emiliano died, this man, Red, attacked her and sexually assaulted her in the apartment. She said that Red attacked her in front of the other kids and Emiliano. And according to Camelia, the other kids left the room and Emiliano attempted to help. At that time, Red took Emiliano down the hallway. Camelia told Sandoval that she then attempted to escape, but Red assaulted her again. Then Red left the apartment. Camelia found Emiliano asleep in the corner and he had a mark on his head. She told Sandoval that Red told her not to implicate him or he would take her life and her kid's life. So then, on Thanksgiving 2012, Camelia came back to her apartment to find Red sitting in the living room with the kids and Emiliano. Red then took Camelia's phone and chased her into the bedroom. He was dressed in all black and he wore white gloves. He then pushed her down onto the bed and inserted a needle into her arm. This caused her to lose consciousness and removed her clothes. When Camelia woke up, she found Emiliano in a closet, bloody and with a note pinned to his chest, stating that if you try to find me, I'm going to take your child's life. Camelia then told Sandoval that she removed Emiliano's dead body from the closet, placed it in trash bags, and placed the bags containing his body in the dumpster behind her apartment building. This to me is dumb as fuck. Why, if you're assaulted, are you just gonna bury the body? The first thing you do is go to police. That's what anyone would do. Now, after her statement to Sandoval, he began to investigate her claims, and she identified Red as a man named Lamar. This Lamar testified in trial. He did say his nickname is Red. He admitted to criminal record, including robbery and assault. Lamar said that he met Camelia in 2011 and he went to her apartment on 2 occasions. The first occasion, Lamar was accompanied by his cousin. The 2 men visited Camelia for about 30 minutes. On the second occasion, Camelia invited Lamar back to her apartment, at which time the 2 had consensual sex. Lamar did not see Camelia's children during the visit to her apartment. He testified that he did not do anything or cause any physical harm on Camelia or the children. In fact, he never knew them, he did not meet them, he had no contact with Emiliano, and he was not involved with Emiliano's death. Now, in the trial, Agent Sandoval further testified that his investigation of Camelia's October interview revealed a number of inconsistencies. Firstly, he went through her phone, right? He discovered 17 outgoing and 20 incoming text messages, as well as a 10-minute phone call. This was during the time period Camelia claimed to be unconscious and that she was drugged by Red. There was also internet activity on her phone, specifically searches pertaining to adoption. This was all during the same time period she claimed she was unconscious and Red was assaulting her. The state also called witnesses with regard to Camelia's relationship with Emiliano. You had Emiliano's pediatrician. He began treating Emiliano when he was only 7 months old. He claimed Emiliano was underweight and his weight continued to drop further down the growth chart. The doctor further testified that Camelia never raised any concerns about Emiliano's behavior or childhood development. You also had April Shepard. She was a licensed social worker and consultant at the Positive Education Program. This is a group that provides support to children. Shepard testified that Emiliano and Camelia were 2 of her clients. She said that Emiliano went to her in May 2012 because Camelia was concerned that Emiliano suffered from physical and communication delays. Shepard further testified that Camelia claimed to be overwhelmed with his behavior, and that Emiliano would not listen to her, and that Emiliano was defiant that if Camelia asked him to do something, he wouldn't do it. Well, of course he wouldn't. That's what kids do. They don't listen. Shepard stated that Camelia desired to obtain parenting skills from the program. But Shepard had concerns about Camelia. Specifically, she was concerned about Camelia's ability to bond with Emiliano. Shepard eventually contacted the Department of Children and Family Services after she was aware that one of Emiliano's doctors was seeking to contact Camelia. You also had Lateria Foster. She testified she had been a foster parent for 17 years. She said Camelia moved to Mississippi for a period of time and later returned to Ohio. Camelia then gave birth to Emiliano. Lateria continued to assist Camelia with day-to-day tasks, including buying and delivering food and providing transport. But Lateria became concerned about Emiliano because he would cry whenever Camelia picked him up from her care. Lateria testified that Camelia stated that Emiliano always cried and he was spoiled. She described Emiliano as just a normal baby that liked to eat a lot. She said that during the middle of 2012, she had a series of conversations with Camelia pertaining to Emiliano. And during one of the conversations, Camelia seemed really frustrated, and she kept calling Emiliano as the bad one, as in the bad one of all her children. Lateria then made arrangements for her daughter to take care of Emiliano. This was August 2012. During this time, Lateria testified she noticed Emiliano was beginning to talk. He was learning his ABCs, enjoyed music. Lateria further testified that Camelia felt pressured to have Emiliano live with her, and that Camelia had not bonded with Emiliano. Slowly, Lateria lost contact with Camelia after Emiliano was returned to her at the end of August 2012. We also had Julia Shelvin. She testified that she and Camelia were best friends in high school, and she stated that about 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving in 2012, Camelia told her she was thinking of giving up Emiliano for adoption because he was just behaviorally very bad. She called Julia after Emiliano went missing, asking if she could assist in the search. Julia testified that Camelia seemed worried, but she wasn't crying. Julia posted notices pertaining to Emiliano's disappearance on Facebook and Instagram. You also had Latricia Harrison. She testified that her fiance is the father of Camelia's youngest son. Camelia lived with them for approximately a month in 2012 when she was pregnant and assisted her in obtaining food stamps and welfare payments. Latricia testified that Emiliano did not exhibit notable behavioral issues, but she did describe the child as very fragile and 2 or 3 times smaller than her own sons of the same age. Latricia stated that on one occasion, she and Camelia caught Harrison's son, Emiliano, and the other kids drinking water out of toilet. Camelia proceeded to use a belt on Emiliano and the other kids. Latricia testified that both she and her fiance were concerned about Camelia's discipline style and asked her to move out. So, at the end of the state's case, Camelia moved for an acquittal, which the trial denied. Camelia rested without offering any evidence. Defense counsel requested a jury instruction on reckless homicide, a lesser included offense to aggravated murder. And after a quick deliberation, the jury found Camelia Terry guilty of purposely taking the life of 3-year-old Emiliano, but they did not find her guilty of planning the murder. The jury found her guilty on 9 of 10 counts. This was aggravated murder, felonious assault, endangering children, tampering with evidence, and gross abuse of a corpse. She showed no reaction to the verdicts and was sentenced to 31 years in prison. She cut his limbs off. And there's only one thing to say. Bro, what the fuck?